negotiate exit packages for the ex-workers of the 5 collapsed banks. The General Secretary of the ICU, Solomon Kote, explains that the labor law requires that any process of redundancy be sent to the Chief Labor Officer 3 months to carrying out the exercise. In Mr. Kote's view, the fast pace of downsizing labor at the Consolidated Bank leaves more questions to be answered.
ICU believes strongly that the workers in this particular matter must come under the Labour Act, Section 65. That is where they belong. But with what the Consolidated Bank is doing now, as if they are having rights that are not regulated by law. Okay? Because we saw what happened at UT and Capital Bank. Commercial Bank took over. They ran for a while before the layoffs were done. And that process, they even notified the National Labour, the Labour Department. In this case, the Labour Department have not been notified, and they are going ahead to lay off numbers of workers. Even though we have a very horrible data of the unemployment situation, by this, they are adding more that could not be identified.
The timeline for workers of the Consolidated Bank to complete an online application process to secure their employment concluded today. Subsequently, the workers will be subjected to skill set assessment, which will influence a final determination of the number of staff to be retained. This is expected to be completed by the end of September. In an attempt to reduce the impact of job losses, the staff of Consolidated Bank are currently undergoing some skills training, which are expected to be useful for the provision of essential services where necessary. But Solomon Kote says this plan should ideally succeed negotiations for the exit packages.
Ideally, we must conclude negotiations before the workers go. Now, we know it is a race with time for them. Time seriously is not on their side, especially after issuing to every employee a 60 days contract work, and 30 days is gone out of it. We can say today for sure 33 days is gone out of it. So now with the 22 days that is left, okay, there's so much pressure on them to go through their due processes. And I believe we may get to a point where we say, okay, let the workers go whilst we continue to negotiate.
In all, reports suggest that about 1,700 out of the 3,700 workers will be shown the exit from the Consolidated Bank. This should also afford the management opportunity to efficiently manage the 191 branches which might eventually drop after the restructuring.
Well, focusing now on energy, some sector analysts have described the $350 million liquefied natural gas terminal deal with China as one which will be good for the energy sector. They're optimistic the deal will ultimately secure the supply of fuel to boost the energy sector. Government yesterday signed the deal with the China Harbour Engineering Company for the construction of an LNG terminal to be sited in Tema. There is more in this report filed by Jessica Ayoko-Ai.
The project is estimated to provide 2 million tons of gas yearly, while generating about 1,600 jobs to Ghanaians. The project will also provide 30% of Ghana's total electricity generating capacity. This LNG terminal is expected to be completed in 18 months and will be Sub-Saharan Africa's first regasification terminal. In an interview with City Business News, Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology, Energy and Environment, KITE, Ishmael Ejekumhene said the deal will go a long way to sustain the country's energy sector.
It will. It will in the sense that we need an LNG facility to support supply of gas, natural gas. But I've also talked about the fact that we need to make sure that we don't oversubscribe to these LNGs because we are gradually building up on our indigenous gas supply. So if it's a complement to both the sources that we have now, which is the WACP, that's the West African Gas Pipeline, and the Jubilee and also the ENI project that is coming on stream.
This deal is on the back of a 12-year gas supply agreement between the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, and Rosneft, a global LNG trader and the world's largest listed oil producer. Rosneft subsequently engaged Tema LNG Terminal Company for the provision of the regasification services. Mr. Ejekumhene further states that the deal will be profitable to the country if it goes a long way to complement indigenous supply rather than compete with other already set up pipelines in the system.
If it's an additional supply and it's not just coming to compete for the use of gas, then yes, it's going to ultimately make us a little bit more secure when it comes to fuel supply for the power plant. So it's definitely a plus if it's going to complement indigenous supply and also what we get through the West African gas line.
You're watching the Business Dashboard on City TV. My name is Bobi Osei. When we do return, we'll tell you how the paperless port system introduced at the port is still functioning a year after it was launched. Stay with us.
Witness the twisted and tangled story of betrayal, greed, vengeance, and love in the award-winning Brazil Avenue. Carminia, a woman led by greed, gets rid of her husband, who is Rita's father, and sends Rita away to a filthy landfill. Rita finds love in Batata, but they are soon separated by adoption into different families, far away from each other. Many years later, all paths cross again, as Rita, now a renowned chef, seeks to pay back her stepmother for taking away her happiness as a child. It's a story of twists, turns, suspense, and thrilling action in Brazil Avenue. Brazil Avenue, coming soon only on City TV. Brazil Avenue. Tune in to The Point of View, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. as Bernard Avlet takes the news further. He will bring the right guest, ask them the relevant questions, and get you the real insights you need on the big stories for the day.
I said, property tax, I will pay. If you come to my house, I'll cut you a check. But when did I do my presentation? February?
Yes.
Or February, yes, sometime. Nobody has come to my house.
Really?
Ghana is broke. And, you know, that's the reality we must all come to live with.
The Point of View with Bernard Avlet, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on City TV.
You're welcome back to the Business Dashboard on City TV. My name is Bobi Osei. Let's bring you some more of the top business stories. Now, on the 1st of September last year, the paperless system was introduced in the country's port as a way to ease the process of clearing goods at both the Tema and Takoradi port. The move was initiated by Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia to fast-track the process of clearing goods as well as raking the needed revenue for the country. So a year on, my colleague Nanoyi Ankra visited the Tema port to monitor operations there and has filed this report.
Good, we're coping with it. But what I would say is the education on the paperless didn't sink down so well. So there was a whole lot of struggle.
It's very nice, but there's a small problems. Sometimes it creates problem.
The education about it, that wasn't going well.
These are importers and clearing agents who operate at the Tema port almost on a daily basis. To them, the paperless system is a great idea, but it has not come without some challenges. My visit to the Tema port showed that indeed the procedures for clearing goods have been networked and was being managed by GCNet and Customs World, formerly West Blue Consult. To some clearing agents, the poor network system rather delays the process.
Basically, when the network is down, there's nothing we all can do. That's what the excuse they normally give us.
Let's say if GCNet goes off, you have to wait until GCNet comes on again. The last time it went off, it was about 3 days or 2 days, if I'm not mistaken, before it came back.
It delays. A time ago, is it about a month or so? It delays more than 3 days. 3 days, no job.
The Vice President gave the directive in May 2017. By September that same year, revenue at the port is said to have increased by 56% from 130 million cedis recorded in the first week of September 2016 to 213 million cedis recorded in the same period 2017. Poor network connection is not the only problem that is hindering the smooth implementation of the paperless system.
We're supposed to send an entry for a client of ours and it's concerning personal effects. And imagine after compliance, a whole lot of agencies were asked to come do the joint examination. We had to go see Energy Commission, Ghana Standard Board, Food and Drugs Board, Plant and Quarantine, NCA, National Security, a whole lot. And at the end of the day, we couldn't even find some of the auspices of this agency they mentioned.
This is personal items for individuals. It's not things which we are going to sell it. But sometimes, because of the paperless, it goes through a lot of agencies like Ghana Standard Authority, Food and Drugs, but sometimes they said Plant Quarantine and other things. That one is the problem.
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority admitted to me that the system has challenges, but says some stakeholders are not cooperating to ensure the success of the project. Esther Jebidonko is the General Manager, Marketing and Public Affairs at the GPHA.
I think that's the commitment of the stakeholders, the major players in the system can also be improved. There's also another way of challenge because yes, we have worked into a year. We have done a number of reviews as stakeholders. We have identified some of the challenges that we have to solve, but strangely, some of those challenges are still there. We have identified them, but to take action and ensure that we solve those challenges, some are still lingering on. So I believe that there's a little bit of challenge with the commitment of the major stakeholders.
It's been a year since the paperless system was introduced. Importers and clearing agents have welcomed the process. However, they believe that more can be done to make it smoother in order to reduce the turnaround time here at the Tema Port. For City News, I am Nana Oyankra.
Now, moving on, the Employment and Labour Relations Minister, Ignatius Bafo-Awuah, has announced that government is in the process of putting together a bilateral agreement with countries in the Gulf state to ensure good working conditions for Ghanaian workers there. Government last year placed a ban on all employment agencies in the country from recruiting Ghanaians to work in foreign countries, particularly in the Gulf region, following incessant reports of inhumane treatment meted out to some Ghanaian domestic workers in the Gulf state by their employers. There is more in the following report.
According to the Employment and Labour Relations Minister, Ignatius Bafo-Awuah, it is a top priority of government to ensure that Ghanaians working in foreign countries are entitled to good working conditions.
We believe in the dignity of the Ghanaian, be he in Ghana or outside Ghana. So what we seek to do is to protect the Ghanaian, and we think that every Ghanaian worker, whether the person is working in Ghana or outside Ghana, should be accorded decent work ethics. So that is what we are seeking to do.
Speaking to City Business News at the sidelines of the MIAC Job Fair 2018, which is the Ghanaian German Center for Jobs, Migration and Reintegration held in collaboration with the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, he also revealed that the bilateral agreements between Ghana and the Gulf states will soon come into force.
You will recall that somewhere last year, early part of last year, with regards to foreign migration, especially to the Gulf states, we placed a ban on exploitation of the states. Currently, what we're doing is that we are developing a bilateral agreement with countries in the Gulf. There are some of them that have proposals to what the free relationship will be. We have actually forwarded them to the AGs, but some of them have really had positive feedback from the AGs. So what is left to be done is to send a cabinet memo to cabinet for its consideration. Given the work that we have done, I want to believe that when we go to the cabinet
The objective of the job fair is to complement government's efforts at reducing youth unemployment. The job fair, which targeted 300 participants, will provide jobs for at least 100 people.
So the government should be able to finance major infrastructural projects and avoid budget overruns if it is to be successful with the maiden century bond. That is the assertion of economist Professor Peter Quartey. Now, his comments come on the back of justification for the issuance of the bond by the government following President Akufo-Addo's visit to China. The following report has more.
The idea of issuing a century bond was first broached by President Akufo-Addo when he met his colleague Xi Jinping of China. According to the president, the move is to fund the government's infrastructural project aimed at achieving a Ghana beyond aid. As Information Minister Designate Kojo Oppong Nkrumah puts it, the arrangement, which is at the consideration stage, should bring respite in absorbing about 30% of the country's debt.
There is a proposal for the administration to consider a century bond, as has been done, for example, by China, Argentina, Austria, Belgium, Ireland, and even Mexico, which provides ultra long-term financing at low rates and helps you to principally do two things: to refinance, in Ghana's case, up to about 30% of our current debt stock, but also provides financing for some of the major items that we desire to embark upon: railways, regional intercity motorways, large-scale commercial residential housing, things like the Aerotropolis or the regional airports, manufacturing, pharmaceutical, petrochemical industries that require financing as well. And at this stage, this proposal is being considered.
Reacting to this, Professor Peter Quartey described the idea as laudable, and here are his reasons.
There are merits in that, in the sense that we see a lot of projects in Ghana that are started, but for lack of funds, they are never completed. Sometimes when they are completed, the cost escalates, at times 5 times or 10 times the original cost. So if you have long-term funding, that will ensure that you execute your projects at the estimated cost without this cost escalations, then these are the benefits.
So, which kind of investors will be interested in buying the century bond when it eventually rolls out? Here is Professor Peter Quartey again.
Mostly it will be the Asian market and to some extent the European market. Mind you, the US interest rates have gone up, so investors are currently moving some funds from Ghana to from Africa to the US. So I don't foresee much participation from the US markets unless the terms are much more favorable.
The last Eurobond issued by the government attracted an interest rate of between 7.6 and 8.6%. Professor Peter Quartey is expecting an interest rate of below 8% for the $50 billion century bond. But he has this caution for the government if it is to benefit fully from the plan.
The problem often arises, the fear as raised by some members of parliament and some stakeholders in society, is that we are basically leaving debt for posterity. That will be true if the funds are not used for the intended purpose, if the funds are not applied judiciously then that for me, yes, will be a big source of worry.
Well, you're still watching the Business Dashboard. Time for us to bring you the latest in international business news. Now, Kweku Adoboli, a former trader convicted of fraud in 2012, is facing deportation to Ghana after being detained by. Now, he served 4 years of a 7-year sentence for a £1.4 billion fraud at Swiss bank UBS. He was released in 2015. Now, foreign nationals sentenced to more than 4 years are automatically considered for deportation. But in an interview with the BBC last week, Adoboli accused the UK authorities of racism. Adoboli is Ghanaian but has lived in the UK since the age of 12. Quote, the fact that I was born in a different country and have a different colored skin became part of the labeling process, unquote, he told BBC Scotland's business editor Douglas Fraser. It was no longer Kweku Adoboli who went to Yorkshire at the age of 12. That boy to Nottingham University, contributor to the Students' Union, became campus brand ambassador for UBS, etc., etc., etc. It was Ghanaian-born rogue trader Adoboli. Well, that ends the international segment of the Business Dashboard. That's all the news we have for you today. My name is Bobi Osei. For more news, do visit citybusinessnews.com. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been another edition of the Business Dashboard. We'll catch you tomorrow with more of the latest from the world of business. Stay with us.